Donald Trump would speak, there was no mistaking his message, right? And one of his key messages before he left office, all the way back to the summertime, schools have to open. We have to open these schools. We got to get the kids back in there. And that made sense. We all know it. And right now we're getting the opposite message from Joe Biden and all the Biden administration officials who owe so many favors to the teachers union. They've got so much power right now, and guess what? They don't want to go to school. They're getting paid right now without working for the most part, and they like it that way. Am I being too harsh? You tell me. Let's hear from the union chief. This is Randi Weingarten, top union official for teachers. Joe Biden owes her probably a lot of favors. The question was put to her yesterday on one of those Sunday shows. Will we have school this year?
Bottom line, though, without full vaccinations, is this school year probably not going to have full school openings?
Well, so I'm glad you asked that question, Chuck, because what does full school opening mean?
I'm so glad you asked, because what does that? It means full school opening, right? Pretty clear. Obviously, she's not glad about this question, and she goes on to confuse the issue.
If you do 6 feet of physical distancing, you're essentially saying in a school you're going to have about 50% or 60% of people in there at any one time, not 100%. So the issue really becomes: do we have 30% more space? Do we have 30% more teachers?
You see where this is going? They need 30% more teachers and 30% more school. That's good for the union, right? Is it good for kids? No, I don't think it's good for kids. More from her from yesterday?
What I think we need to do is we need to actually try to get as much in person as possible right now, have the mitigation strategies, have a real great summer semester to get kids' mojo back in a voluntary way.
Okay, voluntary summer school, huh? Did you catch that? To get their mojo back. We'll have a real great summer semester. Basically, I think I know the answer to what's going to happen to school this year. Hit it. This is the direction we're going. I think it's a couple of things. Human nature. When you get paid and you don't have to work, for most people, I think we're designed this way. That's A-OK. It's there. We're also suffering from a great big fat lack of leadership. Teachers are enjoying this, some of them in interesting ways. This is from, let's see, the school district in Chicago. They have put their downtime to use, and they're trying to get the message out.
I will survive. Make it make sense. Safety is essential.
Okay, so what we have here,
Keep our students
6 Chicago public
and our
school teachers
safe.
expressing their safety concerns through dance. They all stand in solidarity, this is from the union, with educators who are at risk because no one should have to choose between their livelihood and their lives. It's a beautiful sentiment, but it's a bit much, okay? I think they're milking this, all right? I'm not the only one. Now, I'm not saying the situation is entirely analogous, but it does remind me of something that happened way back in the 1980s with, thanks a lot, ladies, that's enough, Ronald Reagan and the air traffic controllers. They were on strike, but Reagan got them, well, Reagan meant business. They went on strike. Reagan ordered them back to work. Not entirely analogous, but man, did he show leadership.
I must tell those who failed to report for duty this morning, they are in violation of the law, and if they do not report for work within 48 hours, they have forfeited their jobs and will be terminated.
Huh? How's that for leadership? And by the way, he made good on that threat. Not exactly the same situation, but I think the teachers could use a little influence, a little bit of pushing. Reagan could do it. Donald Trump could do it. You think Joe Biden's going to do it? Of course not. He owes the union a lot. The unions, they helped make him president. He owes too many people, too many things, and quite frankly, it doesn't look like he's making the decisions. Right now, he's lying about big things and small. And the media, wow, they are lying about everything, everything. Even his existence in that building is based on a lie. It is. This can't be emphasized enough. Still, there are people out there who have not learned the truth about this man, about what he stands for, about the deception throughout his career, and the deception that his campaign and the entire presidency is based on. They all fell for it. Some know and some don't. Here's an example.
He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides?
Donald Trump stood on national television and said there were very fine people on both sides when one side had Nazis.
He uttered those 6 words, the most disgraceful words the president's spoken in my lifetime. Very fine people on both sides.
Calling these folks fine people is a load of crap. They're not fine people.
This, to me, delegitimizes them all, and we should never pay attention to them again. Why do I? Well, because their corrosive message is still out there. It still catches on. People still watch. People still believe them. Here's the truth, though.
There's that famous quote, like one of the House managers said, "A lie will travel halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to put its shoes on." Well, this lie traveled around the world a few times, made its way into the Biden campaign talking points, and ended up on the Senate floor. The Charlottesville lie. Very fine people on both sides. Except that isn't all he said. And they knew it then, and they know it now. Watch this.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him?
I do love
Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
Treated unfairly, sir. I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly?
No.
I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day, it looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this. There are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment. But there are two sides to the country. Does anybody have a final? Does anybody have? You have an infrastructure.
What makes you think? This might be today the first time the news networks played those full remarks in their context.
Maybe fourth or fifth at this point, and we're three of them. I think it's so important, and I'm going to keep showing that. You saw what the president said. Forcefully, condemned neo-Nazis, white supremacists, all the hate groups. He did it out loud, and they lie about it still. Joe Biden based his very campaign. He said he's running for president because of that moment. He said it out loud. Look at his face when he lies to all of us during perhaps one of the most important moments of his life.
Charlottesville is also home to a defining moment for this nation in the last few years. It was there on August of 2017 we saw Klansmen and white supremacists and neo-Nazis come out in the open. Their crazed faces, illuminated by torches, veins bulging and bearing the fangs of racism, chanting the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. And they were met by a courageous group of Americans. And a violent clash ensued. And a brave young woman lost her life. And that's when we heard the words of the President of the United States that stunned the world and shocked the conscience of this nation. He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides? With those words, the President of the United States assigned a moral equivalence between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And in that moment, I knew the threat to this nation was unlike any I had ever seen in my lifetime.
He's a liar, a total and complete liar. That was, I said, the most important moment of his life. I think when you declare for president, that's one of them, right? He's looking at you, he's looking at me, and he's not telling the truth. It's fascinating, right? So how is he governing? Weirdly, of course. But the media, good chunk of them know what's going on, and they're protecting him. They are protecting him in the big things and in the small things. So on Friday, I pointed out that Joe's old dog might need a trip to the dog groomer, huh? We said it in fun. We were kind of just kidding around. I love all dogs. I said that about 5 times during this segment. I really do, by the way. Guess what happened? The mob tried to cancel me. They tried to cancel me, a dog lover. I don't remember the circumstances of this, but this is a couple of years ago. It's not just something I did yesterday for the show, all right? Interesting, huh? Look, when the mob comes for you, let me tell you something. You can survive it. It's no big deal. I'm used to it a little bit. If you're not, let me know. I can help. But just remember what our president said, when it comes to cancel culture and the mob. Remember this message from July 4th of 2020. I think the whole speech is a masterpiece. History will ultimately judge it to be one of the greatest speeches in American history. But this little portion I think you'll find very useful right around now.
There is a new far-left fascism that demands absolute allegiance. If you do not speak its language, perform its rituals, recite its mantras, and follow its commandments, then you will be censored, banished, blacklisted, persecuted, and punished. It's not going to happen to us.
Not going to happen to us. I like that very much, but we've got to be tough. We got to be tough. Got to be fair, got to be nice, but you got to be tough too.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.